This is episode number 14, Submitting to the Process. This podcast was long, so what I had to do is chop it up. So you're going to get part 1 here in episode 14, and then episode 15 will be part 2. So enjoy. What's going on? This is Quamon Fowler coming to you, and I appreciate you for chiming in once again for another Texas Tenor Music podcast. And in this particular episode, I wanted to go into talking about the process. Now, there's a lot of different processes that we go through in our lives, just from the standpoint of just the individual things that we have to deal with, in terms of being a man or a woman. There's a process that we go through in relationships. There's a process we go through when we get married. There's a process we go through once we become parents. There's a process that we go through as individual musicians, and there's also a process that we go through when we have a group, and even there's some processes that we go through once we become self-employed, and so I wanted to talk about a lot of these things or these different aspects, and I'll talk to you about some of the things that I've learned as I've been going through my process. And before we get into it, I just want to talk about, share some news updates. One of the things that I've been working on in the last week is my new logo, Texas Tenor logo, Texas Tenor Music logo. And so I've been having a designer to give me give me some different options. It was actually a few different designers that hooked me up, and the site is 99 Designs. It's pretty hip. It's not sponsored. This is not sponsored by them, but I thought I'd share it. It's always cool to try out these different websites where they give you different options of getting your things that you need done. And so on 99 Designs, it allows for you to submit the type of artwork or actually the project or the logo or design that you need. You just put the details, and different designers will submit their design based on your criteria. And it's a contest, so you can share it with your friends, share it on Twitter, Facebook, and different places, and get people to vote on the one that they like. So that's what I've been doing all last week, and I arrived at a really cool design for Texas Tenor Music. So I'm going to be updating all of my social media platforms with that new logo, and it's pretty exciting. It's pretty hip to see your ideas, your concepts that you have in your head, come to life in a design, and it inspire other people. And so that's a part of the whole process too. When you develop as a business person, getting your branding together. But also some other news is Texas Tenor Music Academy is the place where you can get performances and also music educational videos from myself and some friends, some professional friends of mine. I have been working on that this summer just so that I can make sure, not only the people who want to have access to Jazz Webshed, you can get that content inside of Texas Tenor Music Academy, but also EWI lessons I have available inside Texas Tenor Music Academy. And I like this particular platform that I switched to be able to house all of my videos there. So I also have some performance videos in there as well. And you can check that out. You can start your free trial. And if you want to join, I would love to have you. And once you do, I'll add you to my private Facebook group for all those that are members. And this is my students that I take lessons, that take lessons with me. as well through Skype, or the guys who come to the studio and take lessons with me. You'll be able to hang out there with those people. So that's Texas Tenor Music Academy. Also, I want to tell people about that app that I have, which is Texas Tenor Music app, which is also still available in the App Store, Android, Google Play, and also you can check it out at the Apple Store. So go check out that, and that's a good resource. My radio station is in there, Texas Tenor Radio, and that's where I have recordings that I've done with other musicians, as well as my own recordings. You can check that out there as well. So that's the news for now. Now we can go into what I wanted to talk about. So now let's talk about this process. So I wrote this quote, and it said, in order to get through the process, you've got to submit to the process. And so here's the deal. And I was talking with some friends, and we were just talking about the different steps needed to go through in business. And I actually put up a video last week, and this has been the theme throughout the week. It's just these steps and process. And so I was thinking about, from talking with some of my friends, we were talking about business and just the steps that it takes to really get a business off the ground. And so I've been doing music since, I've been doing it a long time. And even I guess the music business, when I was 15, I was making tapes and selling the tapes. I would package them up and everything, Me and my mom, we would go to Office Depot and get all the supplies, and we would put the cassettes together and put the little insert in there. We would print it off on the printer, and we would cut them out. I think they had, you could go to Office Depot and get the supplies for the inserts and stuff like that, the Memorex inserts and all of that. We did that. And so it was something. Business is something that I've always kind of been into. And of course, because of the industry changing, because of the technology and the new ways of going about things, it always has you shift, and you have to keep up with what's going on, and pay attention to your consumer, and just see how they are actually accessing accessing the products or services that you have to offer. So there's always a flux, a state of change going on. But when we get into business, or actually when we step into anything, a lot of times we don't think about the changes that might have to occur. We're thinking about, hey, I just want to do this. This is where my passion is, and that's what I'm going to do and make money from it. And so it's not that simple, because I remember I talked about in a lesson in Texas Tenor Music Academy on business, and I was talking about the different hats that we have to wear as a technician, a manager, and also a business owner. And so those three hats are different areas of focus, because when you're a technician, basically you just focus on doing the work. When you're a manager, you have to manage those people who do the work. And then when you are a business owner, you're the visionary for the direction for where the company is going. You're not really doing the work or managing the people. You're just giving vision, casting vision, and those managers will give the instructions or organize how the work is going to be executed. And so when you first get started with anything, you got to go through your stages, and I was talking. Well, I actually did a video. Um, it's been a year or so back. It's called the 4 levels of competence. And so in everything that we do, we learn new skills or learn how to do something or play an instrument or something like that. We go through these 4 levels of competence. The first one is unconsciously incompetent. And so at that level, you're not even aware of what you don't know how to do. So if you start playing on an instrument, like let's say the saxophone, you might not know how to blow it. You might not know what a reed is. You might not know what the fingering for a G is and all of that. And so what happens is you might get a book or you might take a lesson with a teacher and he'll show you how to make your embouchure. He'll show you the way to hold it. He'll show you how to blow and shape your mouth and everything like that, show you the different pieces that go together. So once you've been informed about how to put the instrument together and how to play it or blow and finger the notes, then you move from that first level to the second level. And that second level is called consciously incompetent. And that's where you are aware of what you don't know how to do. And so if you practice and you keep getting better and better and go through that process, and you would move on to that third level, which is consciously competent. Now you are aware of knowing how to do something. And so if you keep practicing, you keep getting it, habit is the way, creating habits for yourself when it comes to practicing and learning new things. Once this becomes a habit and you enjoy the process, then you might move to that fourth level, which is unconsciously competent. And that's the place where you don't have to think about it. It's just kind of natural. You're not consciously aware of how good you are or how you're executing a certain thing because you've just done it so much. It's just second nature, like what they say. And so we're like this in different areas. We can be if you think about it when it applies to learning how to drive a car, or stick shift. What I'm saying, there was a time when you had to consciously think about go easy in on that clutch and then shift the gears and give it gas a little bit and kind of take that left foot up and push the right foot down on the accelerator. There was a time when you had to really think about it, but now you might not have to think about it. You just do it. It's second nature. But the thing about it, you went through a process to get to that point. And so a lot of times, especially when we get older, we want to be streamlined when it comes to processes. We want everything to kind of go smoothly, but we're not competent in every area. Even as a musician, I might be at a certain level of mastery, I guess what you can say, at the saxophone, but when it comes to the piano, I might be at a advanced or intermediate level. And when I get to the bass, I'm at a beginner level. And so no matter what instrument I'm at, there's always a process that I have to go through in order to move up the chain or move up to the levels, to the next level. You always have to sound bad before you can sound good. You got to sound good before you can sound great. And so the same principle applies to, relationships too. There's a time when me and my wife were friends, and we had to learn each other. And the more we felt each other in terms of hanging out with each other, and the conversations got deeper, and we felt more comfortable with each other. It's like, dang, we wanted to go to that next level. We had to get engaged, and we waited a year, and then we got married. And so, and then even with going through, you go through a process in marriage because You have that season where you're single. I'm sorry, when you're married to each other and it's no kids, so you can enjoy hanging out, going out to eat, and hanging out with other couples or whatever. You got your freedom, even individually. Y'all can go and do your thing. I can go in here and practice and be in the studio. My wife can be making jewelry or doing whatever she wants to do. And that's great. But then there's a season where it changes when you have some kids. Then it's like it shifts. All our focus is really about taking care of that kid, and the time that we spend, especially from my standpoint as a man. I got to work. I got to make ends meet, to provide for my family. Where there was a process that I had to go through and get to a point to where, okay, it's time to buckle down and change some things up. And so that even goes into talking about the process with business. But let me get to it. I wrote down some notes just to keep me on track so that I don't get ahead of myself. So here, this process, when I was saying you got to submit to the process first before you can get through it, because sometimes we get so overwhelmed or even distracted by other people and what they're doing, especially in this day and age, because we got the Facebook, Twitter, and Snapchat. We got social media, so it's always a thing where everybody is seeing what everybody else is doing. And so that can be kind of distracting, to say the least, because you're seeing what other people are doing, and it's causing you to not focus on what you need to do. And so in order to get to a certain level with anything, you got to have focused attention on it. Okay? So let's take this for instance. This is YouTube. And if you're listening to the audio version now, at that time, you might be on iTunes or the podcast app or SoundCloud or wherever. But there was a process, there was a, an evolution that took place on the internet. When YouTube hit in 2006, people didn't even people were learning what to do with that platform, because people were uploading music on there and people were just doing random videos and putting them up there, and then people were putting copyrighted material up there. And so there was a process that the industry had to go through just to adjust to the change in this new phenomenon. There was a process of peeping out what the consumers was doing and what the business people were doing. And even Facebook, there was a time when I remember there wasn't any ads on Facebook. People was just on there hanging out. Even with Google, there was a time when I don't remember any ads popping up. But there was a process that happened with the companies looking at the behavior of the people and then adjusting their business model around the habits of the people. And so that's a very important nugget, because no matter where you are in your profession or in your level, it's a thing that you have to think about the behavior of your audience. So think about it. It works hand in hand because it's a relationship. We have a persona as creators, whether it's in entertainment or anything, a teacher or whatever. We have a certain persona to those people who we serve, or who is our consumer, or the people who are into what we do. We have a certain way or impression that we make on those people. And so what happens is sometimes if you're in the mode of just thinking about your being a technician and thinking about your work, quite naturally, you're not thinking about how you're being perceived. And so for a long time, when I focused hard on music, that's what I did. I wasn't thinking about the how, let's say, how let's see, how deep my music was per se. I wasn't really thinking about how it would have an impression on someone who's not musically educated, who's not a music teacher or a music student. I wasn't thinking about that. You got people who want to listen to music and just enjoy. They can't digest the jazz because there's too much going on. People are used to hearing stuff that doesn't have that many chords in, or music that doesn't have many chords in it, or melody that they can sing, and it's one of those things. As a trained musician or a highly skilled musician, we look at it from the standpoint a lot of times for our gratification. And so with jazz, it appeals to a higher class, I guess you could say, of people. Or, usually you would see jazz or hear jazz in a museum or in a place like a school, or something like that. Classical music, of course, is the same. You study those type of music. But when it comes to pop culture and where the people are in terms of the masses, they're way, it's like the level of the music is like way low, is down, And so, but anyway, I'm just giving you some perspective on, this whole process thing. And even from being a musician and having to make that shift from not just thinking about creating this killing music that's appealing to me and my music friends, but thinking about those people who are not musically educated. And so that was a process that I had to go through, and just changing my format and focusing on appealing to different audience. Because that's the thing too, and you learn this in business. You learn that well, first of all, you have to know your target audience, and look at the people who are supporting you and who want to support you. And from my standpoint, this is where, when you nail down what your niche is, a lot of times you got to think about like what type of people are going to want. Since I'm a musician, we'll talk about what type of people are going to want my music. Okay, and so also, I'm a Christian. A lot of my support comes from the church. Since when I was little, I got my start in church. Of course, I played in other venues and for other audiences, and people support just as much. But it's always been the church that has been a big supporter. And so for the longest time, I would focus, most all of my albums have original music on it. I mean, I've recorded, a couple of, songs that wasn't original. But for the most part, most of my albums have originals. The only one that doesn't have as much originals on it is the one Blues. I was going to say Blues at Bohemian. It's on Live and Uncut. Live and Uncut was done in D.C. at Bohemian Caverns. But anyway, that was a gig that I did, and I turned it into a album. But what I was going to say is, the church. So my mom would always stay on me. It's like, you need to, do some gospel. And basically what she's saying is, you need to do some hymns. You need to do some music that people are used to hearing in her age group that they came up on. Blessed Assurance, Amazing Grace, Great is Thy Faithfulness, Lord, I'm Available to You, My Tribute, those type of songs, In the Garden. All of those songs were hymns that I grew up on as a kid. And so when I go to a church, especially, they always ask, do you have any gospel on there? Of course, when I have to interpret that, they mean, do I have any hymns? And so from thinking about that, from the outside in, then you put yourself in those situations like, what is that audience? Like, what are they used to? What would they really support? And you got to think about that, and keep that in mind as a business person. If you want to be one who continues to thrive in your business, you have to pay attention to the what your audience wants. And that goes into when I was talking about Google and Facebook, because you look at now what's going on. When you go Google something, it finishes your statement for you. It knows what you want. You can just put in a little bit, like find a video about lawn care, and it'll have a list of stuff about lawn care. And also, you can click on the top links in Google or go to YouTube, and you see its suggested videos once you watch one. So it's all over the place because they've studied the behavior or the things that people are searching for, especially with Facebook, because Facebook, we put everything up there. You put who you're friends with, what you like. They've even got the faces now. You can even put if you loved it, your heart, or if you're excited about it, But think about it. Always put yourself, have some perspective. Look outside of yourself. So think about it. You might be one who doesn't have a business, but you enjoy Facebook because of the social aspect. You just want to hang out and see what everybody else is doing, And so that's great, but you're giving data to Facebook, and that data is what these businesses are using. So when they create an ad, they're appealing to you because they know what you like. They know what books you like to read. You've liked these pages. So you can actually, from the business standpoint, you can find people who like, let's see, Harry Potter, or people who like Lord of the Rings, and they got all these groups of people who are all into that. And so what people do, the businesses, if they have some new book or some new movie or something related to that you like, it'll show up in your news feed. And if you go to Amazon and look up something, you'll look or go back to Facebook and you'll see it right there on the side. It follows you. They call that retargeting. And so, that's what happens now. Of course, the technology has caught up with, the ideas that people have had to where you can do anything, there's a technology there for it. And so, but to bring it back into what I was talking about from my standpoint, seeing how the culture has changed and the technology has kind of moved people into this way of operating where we really rely on these mobile devices a whole lot. And so even when it comes to music, people listen to music on their phones now. There's no physical CD, although I still sell CDs, which is, that's how I make a lot of money from my product. It's when I do a live performance, people buy CDs, which is great because, it's always an aspect where people still want something physical. You can have the digital stuff, but people still want something physical. And this is all a learning process when you're in business, because as a musician, you're always trying to you're thinking in the back of your mind, it's like, man, I want to make money off of my music, but if I press up 1,000 CDs, nobody's going to buy the CDs from our website. But at the same time, when you play live gigs, that's your opportunity to sell the CDs. But, across the world, if you don't put it on iTunes, people won't find out about it. or people are used to going to iTunes or going to Google Play or going to Amazon and playing their music, because these big companies they have created the technology and stuff that has made things convenient for the consumer. So that concludes this part 1 of the Submitting to the Process podcast. We will continue on to the next part in the next episode number 15. If you like this podcast, make sure you rate this podcast 5 stars. I really appreciate your support. I'm Quamon Fowler, and we'll see you again on another Texas Tenor podcast.